You might be surprised to learn that Turkey has a long and rich history with Africa. It's not something you hear about every day. We're talking about Afro-Turks, a community whose roots go back centuries, all the way to the mighty Ottoman Empire. Now, the Ottoman Empire, that was a big deal. It stretched across 3 continents, and one of those continents was Africa. For hundreds of years, people from different parts of Africa found themselves in Ottoman lands. Some came as traders, some as explorers, and sadly, some as slaves. It's this history, the good and the bad, that shaped the Afro-Turkish community we know today. They've been part of Turkey's story for generations, adding their own unique flavor to the country's cultural mix. But their story hasn't always been told. It's time to shine a light on this often overlooked part of Turkish history and celebrate the resilience and contributions of Afro-Turks. Let's talk about the slave trade. It's a dark chapter in human history, and the Ottoman Empire unfortunately played a part in it. Now, the Ottoman slave trade was different from the transatlantic slave trade that brought enslaved Africans to the Americas. In the Ottoman Empire, slavery wasn't based on race. People from all sorts of backgrounds could find themselves enslaved, including Europeans, but that doesn't make it right. Thousands of Africans were brought to the Ottoman Empire as slaves, mostly from East Africa and Sudan. They were forced to work in homes, on farms, and even as soldiers. It was a brutal system that stripped people of their freedom and dignity. But even in the face of such hardship, these Africans held on to their culture and traditions. They passed down their stories, their music, and their beliefs to their children, keeping their heritage alive in a new land. Imagine being taken from your home, your family, everything you know, and brought to a new land. That's the reality that many Africans faced when they were brought to the Ottoman Empire. Life wasn't easy. They had to adapt to a new language, new customs, a whole new way of life. But adapt they did. They built communities, formed families, and found ways to hold on to their African roots. Over time, these communities developed their own unique cultures, blending African traditions with Ottoman influences. You can see it in their music, their food, their dances, a beautiful fusion of 2 worlds. And let's not forget about religion. Many of the enslaved Africans were Muslim, just like their Ottoman rulers. This shared faith helped bridge some of the cultural divides and allowed for a degree of integration. Now, let's talk about a really cool tradition that shows just how resilient Afro-Turkish culture is, the Calf Festival, or Dana Bayrami as it's called in Turkish. This festival takes place every year in May, mainly in the Aegean region of Turkey. Picture this, a whole community coming together, dressed in colourful costumes, singing, dancing and parading a calf through the streets. It's a sight to behold. But the Calf Festival is more than just a party. It's a celebration of freedom, a way for Afro-Turks to remember their ancestors who were enslaved and to honour their journey. The calf itself is a symbol of fertility and abundance, representing the hope for a better future. It's a reminder that even in the darkest of times, hope can flourish. Every community needs its heroes, people who stand up for what's right and fight for equality. For Afro-Turks, one of those heroes is Ahmet Ali Çelikten. Born in 1950, Çelikten dedicated his life to raising awareness about Afro-Turkish history and culture. He was a journalist, a writer, and a tireless advocate for the rights of his community. Çelikten believed that education was key to fighting discrimination. He traveled throughout Turkey, giving lectures and workshops about Afro-Turkish history and culture. He wanted people to understand that Afro-Turks weren't just a footnote in history, they were an integral part of Turkish society. His work helped bring the stories of Afro-Turks to light and inspired a new generation to embrace their heritage. He sadly passed away in 2005, but his legacy continues to inspire activism and cultural pride within the Afro-Turkish community. Section 6. Unearthing the Past. Modern Recognition and Activism. For a long time, the history of Afro-Turks was hidden in plain sight. It wasn't talked about in schools, and there were very few resources available for people who wanted to learn more. But in recent years, there's been a growing movement to change that. Scholars, activists, and artists are working hard to unearth the past and bring the stories of Afro-Turks to the forefront. There have been exhibitions, documentaries, and books dedicated to Afro-Turkish history and culture. People are starting to ask questions, to challenge the traditional narratives, and to demand recognition for this often overlooked community. And it's about time. Recognizing the contributions of Afro-Turks is not just about righting a historical wrong, it's about acknowledging the richness and diversity of Turkish society as a whole. Section 7. Black Lives Matter in Turkey, Solidarity Across Continents. Remember the Black Lives Matter protests that swept across the United States and the world in 2020? Well, those protests resonated deeply with many people in Turkey, including Afro-Turks. In the city of Izmir, home to a significant Afro-Turkish population, people took to the streets to show their solidarity with Black Americans and to highlight the ongoing struggle against racism and discrimination in their own country. It was a powerful moment, a reminder that the fight for racial justice transcends borders. It showed that even though they are thousands of miles apart, Afro-Turks and Black Americans share a common history and a common goal, a world where everyone is treated with dignity and respect, regardless of the color of their skin. Section 8. The importance of remembering lessons from Afro-Turkish history. So why is it so important to remember and understand Afro-Turkish history? Well, for starters, it's part of Turkish history. To tell the story of Turkey without including the stories of Afro-Turks is like telling the story of a puzzle while ignoring some of the pieces. It's incomplete, but it goes beyond that. The history of Afro-Turks teaches us about resilience, about the power of culture to endure even in the face of adversity. It reminds us that diversity is a strength, not a weakness. And perhaps most importantly, it reminds us that the fight for equality and justice is an ongoing one. We must never forget the injustices of the past, and we must continue to challenge discrimination and prejudice wherever we see it. Section 9. A shared future, embracing diversity and inclusion. The story of Afro-Turks is a story of survival, adaptation, and ultimately, triumph. It's a story that deserves to be told, celebrated, and learned from. As we move forward, it's essential that we embrace the richness and diversity of Turkish society. We must continue to amplify the voices of Afro-Turks and work together to build a more inclusive and equitable future for all. Because at the end of the day, we're all part of the same human family. We all deserve to be treated with dignity and respect. And we all have something unique to contribute to the tapestry of human experience. Let's celebrate our differences and work together to create a world where everyone feels like they belong.